There's a series of roadblocks that await the Prime Minister in his attempt to legislate Australia's climate target. The Greens are open to backing the 43% target, but are concerned the legislation would create a ceiling on emissions reduction. The opposition has warned of long-lasting economic implications. Joining me live now is the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. David, thanks so much for your time. What is your position? Has it changed?
No, it hasn't, and we won't support legislation. We haven't had to legislate to meet our international targets, whether that be Kyoto or Paris or net zero or anywhere along that journey. Australians do the right thing. They don't need the big hand of government coming in. But what you do by bringing in legislation is you lock Australians in to a trajectory, and this trajectory towards net zero is not a linear path. And the world can change, and so too can technology. And so this is more about virtual signalling rather than actually being able to put the environment infrastructure around our people. And the only thing that will be legislated in this 43% is the safeguards mechanism. That'll mean you'll pay more, particularly when those last two oil refiners that are left in our country will have to pay more to abate their carbon, which means your fuel will be more. So it's great to have all these legislated targets, but you've got to be honest with the Australian people about how you get there and who pays for it. We had a technology roadmap that invested and spread our risk, and that's one of the things that I think Australians need to be mindful of. While we're all for renewables, if you put all your energy eggs in that basket and the technology is not there, particularly around batteries, to give you not just the capacity and dispatchability for your home, but for those industries out there that employ people, then you put our economy at risk and you put our transition towards making sure we live up to those international commitments at risk, because we won't be a strong enough country to be able to do it. We should be investing in the technologies that are there, whether that be carbon capture storage, and in particularly when you have the International Energy Agency only last week come out and said Australia should invest more, and we as a federal government we were in should have invested more. Norway is already proving this. So why wouldn't we keep our baseload power there? Let's get back to first principles. If you want to reduce emissions, who cares if it's from a coal-fired power station or gas? If it gives us cheap, reliable energy that reduces our emissions, that's called common sense. And that's what the Nationals want to bring to this parliament, is common sense. And we're just saying to the Greens, back off. At least the government's now saying to them, back off about new coal mines and gas reserves. That they just don't understand. Someone's got to pay the bills, and those industries pay the bills.
Yeah, but Labor won the election. They had a clear mandate for this. It was clear what their target would be. When it comes to a vote in Parliament, you're going to be sitting on the same side of the Greens, perhaps. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, the Greens will be sitting on the same side as us.
What's the difference?
And the reality is what we're saying is while we've made a commitment to net zero by 2050, that is not a linear path. And locking yourself in is not a smart thing to do by any government. It doesn't allow you to pivot, particularly if there are geopolitical changes. And also you could see the weaponisation of this by activists, even for building or duplicating of a highway. They could use this in courts to slow down projects and weaponise it to the effect that it'll bring our country to a standstill. We haven't had to legislate. We have not had to legislate, and we are good global citizens that have lived up to all our international commitments. Why do the Australian people need to be told by big government what to do and how to do it? A job of a government is simply to put the environment and infrastructure around their people, and they'll do the rest. And that's all we've said. That was our plan for net zero to 2050. It wasn't a linear one. We didn't have to legislate.
Yeah.
There are too many risks in legislating that would open up our economy and open up our people to unreliable energy and costly energy that would bring our economy down.
So there's some within the coalition, though, that want this discussed in party room or at the very least shadow cabinet. Are you saying this morning, absolutely not, that's not going to happen, and shutting that down?
Well, I can't speak for the Liberal Party, but this is a discussion we've had in the National Party room, and we've been very clear. While we made a commitment to net zero by 2050, we made it clear that technology had to be that roadmap of getting us there, and that meant that it wasn't a linear path in getting there, and nor should it be. because we have to make sure that those traditional industries are protected, and you can do that with that new technology, carbon capture storage. And we're even saying, let's look at nuclear. And I've been rejected, despite this new political construct that Prime Minister wanted to create, about creating an environment of a mature conversation on and debate on issues. Well, nuclear, the emerging energy on that should be looked at. The emerging technologies, such as small-scale modular nuclear, should be looked at. So we're not going to get into this. The Liberals and us will obviously have a joint party room. Then I can't speak for where the Liberal Party will land on this, but we've been eminently sensible on this, living up to international commitments, knowing that if we hadn't, your capital markets were factoring up to 3% on your mortgage and our commodity prices were going down. Yeah. That's the why. This is about making sure that we do this sensibly, protecting industries, protecting Australia, and making sure Australia is stronger into the future.
We just saw the Agriculture Minister return from Indonesia. We're not going to shut our borders to Indonesia because of foot and mouth disease, but there are measures that have been put in place. In your view, is that enough? Are you comfortable with where those measures are at?
No, I'm not, and we shouldn't broadly say we won't close our borders. We need to continue to monitor what's happening in Indonesia. If they are unable to contain and isolate the disease, then that should give us greater cause for concern that would lead to that step. But you've got to understand we're accepting people from countries at the moment that have FMD, but they can demonstrate that they can contain it and reduce the risk. In terms of what's being done on the ground, the fact that he's still pontificating on mats and footbaths and other measures about making sure increased screening of everyone that comes through just goes to show that they have no understanding of the impacts of this on agriculture, but also on you. It's not just going to cost you nearly
should
as
happen,
much.
David Littleproud, do you think everyone who returns from Indonesia should simply have to give their shoes to customs? I mean, it sounds extreme, but...
Yeah, they should... Well, no, it's not. And in fact, in other countries, foot baths and foot mats are already in place. And in fact, when the department briefed me as to why they didn't have them in place already 2.5 weeks ago, it was more about it being an operational inconvenience rather than anything else. Now, I'm not saying that's the silver bullet. I'm saying these are the 1 or 2 percenters that would stop when you've got tens of thousands of people that have come back from Indonesia over the last couple of weeks. It only takes one that would cost you and the Australian taxpayer $80 billion and cost you a whole lot more every time you went to the checkout. There's also other practical measures that can, in terms of the screening as they come through. Yes, it's an inconvenience. Murray Watt himself went through the screening last week, took him an extra 5 minutes. But these are the measures because the dogs cannot detect FMD. Yeah. And that is the challenge that we've got. And so it can come in on mud or faeces on a boot. And you can also increase the traceability and put in 3D X-ray scanning machines that we'd created and put into Australia postal services around the country. But we're now trying to put them into airports. Expedite that. The money's spent. You don't need to wait till October. Spend the money now. Get these traceability, get the X-rays out there. It'll give us greater protection and greater comfort here in Australia.
All right, we'll try and get a response to that. Before I let you go, you're a Queenslander. We knew that after State of Origin. You let us know loud and clear. So is Cam Smith. Are you gloating about him this morning as well, owning him?
Look, there's now 2 famous Queenslanders called Cam Smith. One a rugby league legend and now a golfing legend. This guy's a cool cat. I mean, dead set. What a legend. You never discount a Queenslander will come back swinging even though we might be down. But this is just a great moment in sport. And, us Queenslanders, we're very humble people. It's all about Australia, even though we do our heavy lifting for you all.
Yeah, not so humble all the time. If you're a really committed fan, David, maybe I'll see you grow a mullet. We'll check with you in the next sitting week, and we want to see a mullet in question time, all right?
Yeah, that's ugly. I'm ugly with this. That mullet's not going to help me.
Okay. Oh, being hard on yourself. David Littleproud, thanks so much for your time as always.
Thanks, mate.